At the beginning of the story, we see the Ardell territory. In this small provincial estate, no different from the magical wasteland, a child is born. The children's father is in some tension at this time, so a babysitter goes to him and consoles him. The other babysitter is happy to see the child's mother and says, "Heaven has really favored us, my lady. This is a manly boy. He looks exactly like the landlord. Have you decided on his name?" The mother of the children names this child Luin Ardell. After giving this name, his mother looks at her innocent child and thinks that I hope he can become a light for this world. After turning a few years old, our protagonist insists that he will go to 8 lakes. Our protagonist was different from others right from his childhood. Then we see our protagonist who is reading a book, and there are 2 people present there. One is his father, and the other is probably his father's family friend. Luin's father says to the person in front, "Please try your best and bring us good marine resources." Hearing this, the other person says, "Of course, I will take care of it, my lord." Hearing both of them, our protagonist interrupts and says, "Mr. Beggins." Hearing this, Beggins asks our protagonist, "What is the matter, young master?" Our protagonist then tells Beggins, "Don't go to the street near the South Mountain. The flow of mana there was weird." Hearing such words from our protagonist, who is small at this time, both of them are unable to understand, and in confusion both of them start looking at each other as to what it means. The story goes a little further, and we see that the weather at this time is very bad. There is lightning, and it is raining heavily, and in the same we see a man coming running to our protagonist's father. This person is Beggins, who is coming fast towards our protagonist's father. Seeing him, our protagonist's father says, "Beggins, you are late. I was worried about you." As soon as he comes inside the house, Beggins says, "Sorry, I took a long route." Our protagonist's father asks, "Did something happen?" Then Beggins says that thanks to the young master, I was able to escape from the misfortune. Hearing this, our protagonist's father asks, "What do you mean?" Then Beggins says laughingly, "The street near the South Mountain. Because of what the young master said yesterday, I avoided that place. Then I came to know that place was attacked by a beastman." Luin's father gets surprised on hearing this, then Beggins tells further things. "Everyone who went there fell in danger, but I didn't, thanks to the young master." The discussion between the two continued for some time, and then Beggins asked, "Do you think young master can feel the mana in the air?" Our protagonist's father listens to this and thinks, "I don't know for sure, and if this happens, then he will be the future of Ardell." Starting from that day, our protagonist kept showing his magic talent. He sensed mana at the age of 6 and was able to manifest it at the age of 7. And in the year he turned 10, he went to the academy. Our protagonist has gone to a magic academy where the whole process takes place, and at the end there will be a speech by the student representative. Our protagonist surpassed countless children from prestigious families. At Ignit Magic Academy, the best magic academy in the Radiant Empire. And our protagonist got nominated as a finalist with the title of Genius. This was a little overwhelming for our protagonist, but he thought that his name would increase the status of his family. But how long this lasts remains to be seen. After this, we see that a teacher calls our protagonist to demonstrate magical skills so that more students can learn through him. Our protagonist moves forward to demonstrate his skills with full confidence. On the first day of class, Luin realizes that he is not the best, not even the second best. Our protagonist was facing a lot of difficulty in releasing even a simple fire-type magical skill, seeing which the teacher asks him to release it quickly, but our mech is unable to release it, and he wonders what is going wrong. All the students present there who were earlier considering our protagonist a genius are now confused as to what is happening with Luin. Our protagonist lacked the innate ability to release magic in his body. He couldn't perform magic attacks even 1 meter away from his body. As a magician, his body was literally the worst. It just took a moment for people to realize that he was from an ordinary family and had no talent. Therefore, the attitude of the people around him changed rapidly. Our protagonist is passing through school when 2 people pass by him and one of them collides with him. although it happened intentionally. The student next to the student our protagonist collided with asks our protagonist if he is okay. But as soon as he sees our protagonist's face, his attitude changes towards our protagonist, and he says to his fellow friend, "You just touched a disabled bastard. What if you become a disabled too?" The student our protagonist collided with also says, "Damn it, I better wash this off quickly." A person incapable of magic, a blemished man who couldn't even perform magic in the Magic Academy. For those who used to envy Luin, his current status was that he is cursed. Our protagonist has been staring at the student in front of him for a long time, so the person in front of him gets angry and he starts beating our protagonist. And it is like a fun for them that the student who was earlier a genius has become the worst. Our protagonist comes out and cries a lot, wondering if he can ever become a magician. The name that had enrolled into the academy with the best grades. The name that was more promising than anyone else. The name that was more diligent than anyone else. Thanks to that damn curse. The magic genius that entered the academy with the highest grades turned into a magic cripple. That's how everything ended for our protagonist. Our protagonist thought it was going to end like this, and without him knowing, a miracle happened. While unconscious, a status window unlocked in front of him. And as soon as the status window is unlocked, an artifact player is activated. Our protagonist comes to his senses a little at this moment, and he finds himself somewhere else and is a little surprised as to where he is. He feels as if he is in deep water. Then another notification appears in the status window that you are the incarnation of Draka, the destroyer of the world. Seeing this message, our protagonist is confused as to what is this, and what is this Draka, destroyer of the world. Then the figure of a person is seen in front of our protagonist, who looks very powerful and big, and our protagonist can feel his power. Seeing this, he thinks, "What's that? Is this a dream?" However, our protagonist is unable to believe it, because the person in front of him appears vivid. The man who has just appeared in front of our protagonist is trying to say something, but our protagonist doesn't understand what he is saying. Then suddenly, there is a red-colored light, and everything becomes blurry. Hours before this happens to our protagonist, Heidel, the combat magic professor in the training hall of Ignit Academy, calls our protagonist's name. He looks at our protagonist and tells him about the process. As I mentioned earlier, all you have to do is throw fireball and kill that scary crow. Our protagonist comes forward and starts thinking about it. Ball of fire. A spell that any academy student should be able to handle with ease. But for someone incapable of magic like me, it is such a difficult task. He is very sad and wondering whether he will be able to do it this time or not. Meanwhile, teacher Heidel says angrily, "Luin, I said begin." Our protagonist gathers courage within himself and starts creating the fire magic ball that let's not give up. This should work this time. Slowly, a fireball starts forming in his hand, that this time I will do this under any circumstances. I will definitely do it. The students standing at a distance are astonished to see such a big fireball in the hands of our protagonist, that such a big fireball and so much mana is possible for humans. The teacher is also watching it very carefully, and here our protagonist has almost created the fireball and is about to succeed in it when his body stops working. His whole body starts trembling and he has no control over his body. The fireball he has created goes out of control. The teacher asks him, but our protagonist says I can't, but the teacher tells him to hurry up and release it. Our protagonist hears this and says it won't leave my hand. Then the teacher tells him, "Luin, you're now a student of the graduating class. If you still can't handle such a simple magic like fireball, you won't pass the graduation test. You're destined to fail." Our protagonist becomes extremely disappointed after hearing that it is true that I am simply designed to fail. But he apologizes to the teacher for this and says that he will practice more, and after saying his words, he gets disappointed and starts moving ahead. In this practical shooting test, we're supposed to create 10 fireballs and hit the target multiple times. Our protagonist, who can't even cast a spell, let alone hit the target. In this way, Luin can never become a third-class magician. The students standing there, seeing the performance of our protagonist, start talking about different things. How did such a good-for-nothing enter the academy as the best student in his class? Another of these students laughs and says that it would be better for him to give up. He is a dunce for the entire academy. Our protagonist comes and stands among these students and starts thinking about his poor performance, since a humble local nobleman like me entered the academy as the valedictorian. It caused feelings of inferiority and jealousy among my peers who hailed from prestigious families, which became a sufficient reason for them to be hostile toward me. I could handle their bullying, but the reality that I had no more hope began to break me down from my very foundation. It's none other than the curse that has been shackling our protagonist for the past 6 years. Manga Evocation Disorder. Although till now he had maintained a good grip, he started getting surprised again and again. How long can he hold on like this in the future? After the combat practice, all the students come to the academy corridor and everyone is asking each other about their exam. All the students are happy about their exam, that our exam went well. Our protagonist also comes there. Seeing our hero, some students who always keep bullying him laugh and say to him, My, who do we have here? Isn't it the dunce head Luin? It's time to pack your bag, don't you think? If I were you, I'd be so embarrassed I wouldn't show up, but you're persevering. Do you know what the juniors call you? Dunce head Luin. Because of you, the standard of the graduating class has fallen. How about you just go back home now? Back to that rural territory of yours. Our hero does not say anything after listening to this student. Instead, he just grinds his teeth in anger. Then the student next to him also tells our protagonist laughingly, if you don't have skills, you should at least have money. I first heard about the Ardell family only after coming here. After listening to his friend, the first student again says jokingly, Right, my father said this. They're just fools who act aloof despite having nothing. I understand the status of your family as soon as I see you. Our MC is moving ahead after hearing their bad words. As soon as he hears about his family, he turns and gives a strong punch on the face of that student. This punch was very strong, so that the student falls very far, and our protagonist angrily tells him try yapping once again our father, and what nonsense are you talking? Due to the punch, blood starts coming out from the student's mouth, and he angrily looks at our protagonist and abuses him and says, How dare you? Our protagonist then says angrily, You should know when to stop, Ben Folt. Who are you to mess with my father and my family? Meanwhile, another student starts coming towards our protagonist to attack and says, How dare you? You don't know who we are. However, as soon as he reaches our protagonist also punches him in the stomach. Due to this one attack, the other student falls on the ground and spits start coming out of his mouth. Perhaps he is in a lot of pain and is unable to move. Seeing this, Ben Folt became very angry, so he starts creating electric-type magic attack and starts abusing our protagonist. He was angry at how Luin dared to attack him, so he wanted to eliminate Manga Evocation Disorder trash. Our protagonist gets scared after seeing this attack of Ben Folt and starts thinking. To think he's trying to use combat magic inside the academy. Does he not care if he gets expelled? As soon as the attack is ready, he throws that electric ball towards our protagonist. Even after seeing this attack coming, Luin does not move because his body is not moving due to fear. However, just then Teacher Heidel also arrives there and asks both of them to stop. Still, it was too late. That electric ball attack would have hit our protagonist. And our protagonist struggles with the attack and wonders if it will all end like this. Suddenly, everything becomes blurry in front of our protagonist, and then a notification comes that you are the incarnation of Draka, who is the destroyer of the worlds, and your status window has been unlocked. Our protagonist is very panicked after seeing this. He is not able to understand what is this and what is happening to him. The person whose figure is in front of our protagonist at this moment takes the name of our protagonist, hearing which our protagonist is surprised that this is definitely my name. Then our protagonist hears the sound of someone calling, and he slowly opens his eyes. A healer magician is standing in front of him who looks at our protagonist and says, "You have woken up, and the name of this healer magician is Helen." Our protagonist quickly gets up and asks, "Where am I?" Helen says, "You are in the recovery room." Luin grabs his head in panic. Seeing him, Helen tells him, "Never mind, just lie down. There is no need for stand up." Our protagonist is holding his head and is not able to understand anything because he is feeling a little dizzy. However, he cannot remain sitting, and he also asks Helen if I had fainted. Our protagonist faintly remembers the moment when that man appeared before him. He couldn't figure out what it was because it was still so vivid. Then he asks Helen how long I remained passed out. Helen tells him, "Almost a day. It's fortunate that it wasn't worse. God helped you." Then Luin asks, "Am I all right now?" After listening to our protagonist, Helen feels a little sad and says, "We still have to check further, but you look too good for someone who was directly hit by a lightning bolt. There is no wound burn, not even a damaged organ. I have never seen anything like this." Our protagonist couldn't understand anything after hearing this because he also found it impossible in a way because lightning bolt is a scary type of magic which burns the entire body in a few seconds. What's more, our protagonist took a direct blow. This is what is troubling our protagonist, that why am I still perfect even after being attacked directly? Meanwhile, the professor comes there, and after seeing the professor, Helen starts leaving from there, and she says to our protagonist that if you find anything strange, then definitely tell me. As soon as Helen leaves from there, Heidel asks our protagonist about his condition. Our protagonist says, "I am fine." At this moment, Heidel is looking a little angry. He says in a slightly heavy voice, "That's fortunate." And there was a professor meeting about that incident. First, Ben Folt will be expelled. Use of offensive magic with strong intent to kill, spreading false rumors about the Ardell family head, and the unfair treatment and bullying towards you. All these acts were considered to come up with this verdict. Our protagonist says a little sadly, "But I also hit Ben." Hearing this, the teacher says, "No doubt, there will be punishment for you too. Keeping these facts in mind, you will volunteer for the academy for a month." Then the teacher asks another question to our protagonist, whether perhaps you have any artifact. Our protagonist gets a little confused after hearing this, that the artifact? No way. If I had something like this, I wouldn't be bullied like this. The teacher looks at our protagonist and says, "Well, judging by its worth and how rare it is, the family head of the Ardell family would have used it for his people already." Our protagonist does not understand anything from the teacher's words. Why is the teacher asking me such things? The teacher standing in front is thinking at this time, "I'm sure that a red light shrouded your body before the lightning bolt touched you. It seemed like a high-grade artifact was protecting you, which bounced off Ben's magic." Our protagonist also sees the teacher thinking and starts wondering, what is artifact teacher talking about? Then he remembers his dream and wonders if it is related to his dream. No, what am I thinking? I don't understand what happened, but I'm sure I don't have an artifact. The teacher thinks about it for a while and says okay and starts leaving from there and asks our protagonist to take some rest. If the professor had inquired a little more about it, our protagonist would have told about the truth, but the professor did not ask much, so our protagonist also did not tell. After the professor leaves, our protagonist starts thinking about how the experience he had was not like a differentiated dream, and that strange voice artifact Draka, the destroyer of the worlds and the players, what was that all about? And then he thinks a little more that there was another thing, the status window, and as soon as he says status window, a blue status window becomes visible in front of him, seeing which he is completely shocked. Hearing his voice, Helen comes there and asks him, "Are you okay? Are you not feeling good?" Our protagonist points towards the status window and says, "No, it is not like that, can't you see it? The blue thing in front of me." Helen gets a little worried after listening to our protagonist because she can't understand what our protagonist is saying, and she can't even see the status window, so she keeps asking our protagonist if he is okay. After listening to Helen's words, it doesn't take long for our protagonist to understand that she can't see it, and at this time all the information of our protagonist is being shown in the status bar. Luin Ardell, incarnation of Draka, the destroyer of world. As a result of his pursuit for infinite strength, the magician Draka perished along with his world. For Draka, who from birth lacked the ability to evoke mana, strength was the origin of his power. Player, an artifact of Draka that can summon the status window and limitlessly increase one's power through quests. Strength 150, Agility 100, Wisdom 550. Then our protagonist makes an excuse to avoid Helen's questions. Never mind, there will be a misunderstanding. Helen tells him that it was not a joke, all your results are perfectly normal, you can go to your dorms. There are many questions going on in the mind of our protagonist regarding all these things that today I am completely normal even after getting hit by a lightning bolt. The man with the red eye I met in the other space, and the status window only I can see. The status window I saw then. It definitely said that I'm the incarnation of Draka. Could it be that the artifact of the magician called Draka was transferred to me? Our protagonist had seen a strange thing in that window, which was a quest. For this, he comes outside to the training ground. Repeatable quests. Since our protagonist has become a player associated with Draka, the destroyer of worlds, he needs to train his body in preparation for increasing his strength. To complete his quest, he has to punch 100 times, kick 100 times, and spin kick 100 times. As a reward, his strength will increase by 10% and a skill will also be unlocked. Luin thinks a little after seeing this. Punching and kicking are just related to strength. How will this help a magician like me? However, it is Artifact's mission, so he is not suspicious of it. He thinks of giving it a try, so he starts punching. Seeing the numbers increasing as he is punching, he is very happy that in this way I will soon achieve my goal. He keeps punching like this for some time, but now the punches are not being counted, so he understands that if even a small mistake is made, then the number will not increase, so he will have to do it appropriately. And after a lot of hard work, finally our protagonist has completed all the given quests, and due to this, he is so tired that he doesn't have the courage to stand up. But as soon as the quest is completed, as per the rewards, his strength increases by 10% and a skill is also unlocked. As the strength of our protagonist increases, changes start taking place in his body, seeing which he becomes very surprised and thinks in astonishment. He is unable to understand this feeling because it is flowing faintly through his blood vessels. It's something more fundamental than mana. As soon as he feels this 10% increased strength in his body, he feels very good because he is feeling strong. Therefore, to test this power, he gives a strong punch. His punch was quite powerful, which creates air pressure. Feeling so powerful, our protagonist starts becoming very happy, and thoughts start coming in his mind that the power used in magic has become very strong. The speed, air resistance, and destructive power. Everything has definitely changed from before. My fundamental strength has really gotten stronger. Then, what's the other reward called skill unlock? After this, he immediately opens the status window where his force circle is passive, and he can replace mana with strength. Mana circles will be replaced by force circles. From now on, all magic will be affected by the player's strength. Our protagonist gets quite shocked after seeing this, that mana circles are replaced with force circles. So does this mean that our protagonist's mana will be replaced by strength? All those who feel and study mana have a circle around the heart. The mana circle plays an important role in releasing and strengthening mana, increases in number depending on the depth of mana and the amount of mana the magician can control. Our protagonist had 4 mana circles. This is much more than other children his age, but because of his disability, it seemed as if he had nothing. Our protagonist takes a moment to concentrate on his magic, and after a while he notices that his mana circle has literally disappeared. Then this force, which is rotating like crazy in its place, is force circle. Seeing this kind of force circle, our protagonist starts thinking. A force circle instead of a mana circle. There can be no magician without a mana circle. If this new circle can't do what the mana circle can, what would happen to me? Then, will my life as a magician end like this? No, it's too early to feel down. Let's test it first. To test this new power, our protagonist creates a fireball, and this fireball was his most perfect fireball till date, which is working as per his wish. Our protagonist is completely surprised to see this because this fireball is very strong, and the moment he saw the size of his fireball, it did not take him long to understand that this power is the power of the artifact. While training, Luin also thinks because magic has a basic actuation principle, it takes about 10 seconds before the magic is released. But to be able to freely skip this step and create fireballs just with the power within my body. This is the power of an artifact. Then he saw something on the status window and thought, what is it now? Magician of Madness, in which it was written that a method of magic designed by Draka, who had trouble releasing mana. You can attack enemies by loading magic into your body. You can attack enemies by imbuing magic into your body. You are not affected by magic cast by you. Strength is added to your magic attack. Your magic damage will also deal additional physical damage. After reading it, he thinks, loading magic into my body to attack? How? By any chance, did that guy called Draka have a similar evocation disorder like me? And fought by imbuing himself with magic in his fists and legs? Then he is shocked and thinks, how the hell did he come up with this? After that, a new quest appeared in front of him, in which it was written that, quest, demonstration of the method. Use the force circle and strength to hit a physical target. Hit physical target 1 time. Reward, strength plus 10. Then he thinks how he can attack a physical target. I didn't even think of this method at all. If I can become a magician with this method, I must try it out, fireball. Then he punches on wooden scarecrow fragments which are made for practice purposes. Because of his fire punch, all of it burns and blasts into smaller particles. After that, he smiles and thinks it worked. A status window appears that shows that you have completed the quest. As a reward, you have acquired strength plus 10. Then he lay down on the ground because of stress and said, I did it, the quest is finally over. I failed at the stage of discharging magic every time, but I finally succeeded with this fist. To come up with this kind of method, what kind of being is Draka? I want to look into it, but my body is heavy. While thinking all these things, he falls asleep. Then after some time, he listened to some voices like, what? Did he fall asleep here? It looks like he was training until dawn, but he really fell asleep here? Shouldn't we wake him up? He's not dead, is he? There's no way. He was fine even after getting hit by lightning. Then Luin slowly opens his eyes and thinks, why is it so noisy? All of them got shocked after seeing him and said, oh my god, are you awake? Luin, you scared us. Then he stands up, and while yawning he says, what is it? Why is everyone here? Is this your first time seeing someone sleep outdoors? One of them replied, yeah, it is. Especially a nobleman who sleeps outside, abandoning the comfort of the nice dorms. Luin, you didn't drink or something, did you? Luin answered him, drink my foot. I was so exhausted that I fell asleep, and I'm leaving them. Then they began to talk among themselves that it seems like Luin changed. They also notice the burnt wood behind them, and thinks that what's with those scarecrow fragments with only ashes left? Did Luin do that? No way, of course not. At academic dorms, Luin enters a room where a guy is brushing his teeth. Then the guy asked him, what is it, Luin? Did you stay outside yesterday and only come back now? He is from Ignit Academy 6th year, and his name is Jason Damon. Luin replies, you don't have to know. Jason again asks, what's up? You never really leave the academy normally. Jason is the eldest son of the Damon family, famous for casting and mining metals. Luin thinks, to me, who was treated like a loser in the academy, Jason at least treated me nicely. Then Jason asked him weirdly that, don't tell me, did you meet a girl? But Luin thinks, although he's a lunatic crazy about alcohol and girls, and often leaves the academy secretly. You brat, did you finally get yourself together after being hit by that lightning? Right? Tell me in detail what happened last night. What are you on about? I'm going to wash up. After that, Luin goes inside of the bathtub and says, I think I can live now. Then he remembered that there was an additional quest, he must check it out now. The status window shows repeatable quest, body training. Since you have become a player connected to Draka, the destroyer of worlds, you need to train your body in preparation for your increase in strength. Punch 100 times, kick 200 times, spin kick 200 times. Reward is strength plus 10. After looking at this, Luin thinks that the rewards are the same, but the amount of training has increased twofold. Will it keep increasing by twofold in the future? As expected, this ain't easy. But if I can become a magician with this. 1 month since then, Luin was practicing his punch skills. While doing that, he thinks the repeatable quest could be completed once a day. But contrary to the fixed rewards, the required training was increasing day by day. If a day passed without fully completing the quest, all my progress was reset to 0. So I didn't miss a single day. Maybe one good thing was that the quest requirements didn't go above 3,000 times each. If I did any more than that, I would have died from doing quests. Then a notification window opens and tells that repeatable quest, punch 3,000 times completed, kick 3,000 times completed, spin kick 3,000 times completed. You have completed the quest, assigning rewards. Your strength has increased by 10. He trained every day for the past month like that, and even gained a new skill. Body Arts Passive increases the abilities of the body. Stronger and more elaborate movements become possible depending on your training level. Nice. At academic dorms, students are discussing with each other about Luin. Doesn't Luin seem strange these days? I know, someone who used to not even blink in class is now sleeping. Is that all? These days, he practically lives in the training hall all day. And he only practiced kicking. Hey, leave him be. Is this his first time acting strange? He must be trying to do something to overcome his disorder, although it won't work anyway like that. Then Luin thinks, for the past month I have been completing the quests. I also chased after any clues about Draka, but I couldn't find any magician named Draka in any history records. Not here either. Not only that, World Destroyer, Player, Status Window, Quest. I couldn't find even a clue to any of these either. Draka, just who is he? After thinking all that, he opens the status window. Luin Ardell, incarnation of Draka, the destroyer of worlds. Strength is 470 plus. Agility is 100. Wisdom is 1,550. He thought that just who is the person who gave me this power? Then someone calls him and says, come quickly, hear Luin. It was Jason. Luin asked him, what's the matter? He replied, did you hear? Luin again asked, hear what? Jason answered, so you didn't. That's why you're leisurely reading books. Luin asks him if something big happens. Jason tells him that the Ardell family head is here. He again said, Luin, your father. Then Luin gets freezed for a second. Luin runs to meet his father. And his father looked back at him and said, Luin, my son, you're here. Then they both sit on a table for a conversation. Luin said to his father that it's been 6 years since I was admitted to the academy when I was 10. Have you been well all that time, father? His father replied, yeah, I'm always well. Then Luin asked about Luina, his younger sister. His father said, your little sister? She's all grown up now, and she's been learning swordsmanship these days. She said it's to protect her weak older brother. After listening to that, Luin said, haha gosh, I'm embarrassed. His father also says, well, she's always been a bold one. After some time, Luin slowly said, father, I'm doing well. His father asks him, what do you mean? Luin answered that I'm really doing fine. I didn't get hurt physically or emotionally. While drinking tea, his father is thinking about him. Then he said to Luin that, to be honest, the reason why I visited the academy today is to ask if you wanted to quit the academy. If it's hard, you may return to the territory anytime. Haven't you forcefully endured a lot of difficulties and things you couldn't say? After that, Luin thinks about all these things that his father has said. Luin says to his father that, to be honest, I could guess why you came here after 6 years. But father, I think I found a new way, and said that so please promise me one thing. His father replied, a promise? Luin said, I will definitely get a good grade on my practical exam. In return, if I fail again this time, I will do as you want, father. After I promised him that I would get good a grade on my practical exam. Father, who understood my determination, returned to the estate after finishing our conversation. And then, the day of the long-awaited exam finally arrived. The teacher stands with a stick in his hand. He informed the students that today is the day of the Magic Introduction exam. Please keep in mind that any illegal activity will result in a failure. Now, let's begin our exam. The school exam is divided into written and practical exams. The practical exam is divided into 4 parts: targeting, magic, power measuring, actual combat, and 1 versus 1 combat. As a person with Magic Evocation Disorder, I have received perfect scores on written exams for the past 6 years. In the practical exam, Mikkel from the prestigious Garahil family always came in first place. However, things will be different this time, since I will definitely come in first place in this practical exam. After all the written exams were over, we began the actual practical exam after a few days of preparation. Then someone calls Luin and said, you've been acting strange for a while. Do you have some sort of plans for the practical exam today? Again, he said, yeah, I will try to approach it in a new way. Really? You found a way? After that, someone called Luin again and asked him what he is doing here. Then we see that guy, and he again said to Luin that you're not trying to take the practical test with that body, right? With your evocation disorder, it's useless. Luin replies, why? It's true that I came here to take the exam. As an honor student, if I could offer one piece of advice to someone who has failed the practical exams 6 times like you, instead of going out there and humiliating yourself, why don't you just give up now? Luin replies, who knows? I don't think your advice will be particularly helpful though. He again said to Luin that I think you are misunderstanding something. Do you think someone with a magic evocation disorder like you can take the exam properly? Then Luin thinks, what's with this bastard? He angrily thinks Luin used to act timid around me, but what's with his confident attitude? It's pissing me off. I will mess you up in the 1 versus 1 combat exam later, so look forward to it. The first practical exam is targeting, and its official name is multiple target shoot-down exam. The exam method is simple. It's an exam to see how many targets can be shot down with 1 casting. However, unlike before, this year's exam had an increased level of difficulty, with the targets constantly moving. Hurl, 1 target. Angelia, 0 target. 4 targets. Because of that, the average grade was horrible. 3 targets. There are viewers who are discussing that to think the result would be this bad after slightly increasing the difficulty level. The quality of this year's graduating class is miserable. Professor, it is too early to be disappointed. One of them said it's Mikkel's turn this time, so please look forward to it. He is Professor Elric, professor of magic potion making and Mikkel Garahil's uncle. Mikkel coming out and said, look carefully, Luin. I don't know what you are planning, but this is the difference between us. Then he aimed and attacked at many targets at one time. All the audience is motivating him and saying that whoa, as expected of Mikkel. To hit that many targets at once, is he going to place first again? After that, Professor Elric asked, how is it? Isn't he worthy of being called the descendant of the Garahil family? Isn't Mikkel becoming the pride of our academy at this rate? He'll surely become this year's grand festival representative. He replied, Professor Elric, that's enough. The level of this year's graduates, I don't think we need to watch anymore. His name is Tyrion Ignit, the current Academy's Dean and a 7th class Archmage. Then Professor Heidel asked Tyrion that why don't we watch for a bit longer? It's Luin's turn next. Tyrion Ignite said, Luin, do you mean Luin Ardell, Professor Heidel? To think he was still attending the Academy. In that case, considering his passion, let's sit down again. Then Luin thinks, good, this is a great opportunity to test my strength. Sir tells Luin to begin. While saying yes, sir, he generates fire in his hand. Then suddenly fire spread everywhere around him. After seeing that everyone gets shocked and thinks what's with his ridiculous casting speed? How many are there? Impossible. Then Mikkel said, hey, don't you know Luin has a Mana Evocation Disorder? Even if he cast 100 of them, let's see if he can hit even one target. That bastard is just a useless trash who can't do anything. After that, a status window appears that shows time refraction active. Distorts and refracts time for 30 seconds. Gain acceleration equal to 200% of your strength and your movements become faster. You are moving beyond distorted time. Cooldown 5 minutes. The skill he acquired recently is Time Refraction. It helps him move abnormally quickly for 30 seconds to any location he wants. In other words, I am now a typhoon. The ground started breaking due to his fire. After watching this, everyone gets afraid and shocked. Got it. All the students are amazed by his performance, and even his examiner begins to doubt his powers. The dean is so delighted with Luin's performance that he stands up and starts applauding, praising him. The classmates who used to criticize him before are now cheering him on, boosting his morale and congratulating him. Mikkel, however, becomes even more infuriated by his performance. On the other hand, Luin feels overwhelmed by the praises of his classmates because nothing like this has ever happened in the past 6 years, and he always craved such recognition. But Professor Elric fails to acknowledge Luin's happiness as he begins to criticize, saying that hitting targets while casting magic in this manner is a technique they have never heard of before. And with that matter at hand, all the professors convene for a meeting where Elric presents his viewpoint. However, Professor Heidel supports Luin, stating that magic is a limitless realm of infinite possibilities. But Professor Elric remains displeased with his statement, and before he could say anything further about Luin, the dean intervenes, signaling to stop, and declares, "Today I saw a miracle created by a student, and it was a flawless miracle of magic." Professor Elric feels deeply frustrated by Luin's performance, but he can't say anything further in front of the dean. On the other hand, in a hall, several classmates of Luin stand, including Jason, who hugs Luin joyfully, announcing to everyone that the Archmage is coming. All the standing students begin praising Luin for his exam performance. However, Luin feels uncomfortable with the behavior of the students standing with Jason because until recently, they considered him a loser. Additionally, people are happy that his performance has changed everything for him overnight, even for a perceived loser like him. Feeling uneasy, Luin heads towards his room, where he encounters Mikkel and asks him what he's doing in his room. Mikkel, still annoyed by his exam performance, warns Luin not to get too excited in front of him or it won't end well. Luin, remaining calm, firmly grabs Mikkel's hand and gently turns it downwards, showcasing his strength. This leaves Mikkel speechless, realizing Luin's power. Luin stays composed and suggests that if Mikkel is so eager to fight, they should settle it in a fair combat, similar to the exam, to resolve matters. Both exchange heated words, and then Mikkel storms out of Luin's room, seething with anger and feeling superior to Luin. He's convinced that Luin will fail in today's exam. As the day progresses, it's time for the second practical exam in the afternoon, which takes place at the Mana Output Measurement exam site. There stands a colossal ogre statue, a treasure of the Academy, and a rare artifact known as Ancient Ogre Kingram. 500 years ago, the Ogre Kingram was transformed into this artifact while still alive by the Archmage Freud. Trapped within the artifact, Kingram absorbs the magician's mana and acts as a kind of magical target. In this Mana Output Measurement exam, students are required to cast magic on Kingram and achieve a high score. The professor initiates the exam, but there's an atmosphere of anxiety among the students because they know that channeling their maximum power into the statue and reaching a score of 20 is considered a very high achievement. One by one, students hit the statue with their best spells, and the statue mocks their powers because none of the students can perceive its true strength. As a result, the statue becomes a source of ridicule for all the students. Then it's Mikkel's turn. With great confidence, he approaches the statue and tries to utilize his powers to their fullest. However, even then, the statue remains unimpressed by his power. And then it's Luin's turn after Mikkel. Unlike before, Luin isn't as confident this time, feeling a bit nervous. However, he refuses to let his nervousness get the better of him and casts a fireball in his hand. As Luin approaches, the statue starts conversing with him, telling him that it's the first time it's seen his face. As they talk, Luin's fireball slowly grows larger, much to the surprise of his classmates, who find it astonishing as it seems like some kind of class 4 magic, which they consider impossible. Luin casts his fireball, propelling it swiftly towards the statue, landing a direct hit as it soars through the air. His classmates are astounded by his feat, with wide eyes and gaping mouths, considering Luin to be at least a level 5 magician. After the direct hit, Luin feels quite exhausted, but reassures himself that his mana burn explosion worked well. However, he's a bit puzzled by King Bram's strange reaction. Breaking its silence, the statue of King Bram asks Luin who he is. Luin apologizes and reintroduces himself, explaining that he had already introduced himself earlier. Upon hearing the statue's words, Luin faints, as it claims to have been waiting for him for quite some time. This declaration leaves both Luin and the other students baffled. Luin, too, finds himself perplexed by the statue's statement. Despite his extensive research on Draka over the past 2 months, he hadn't come across any significant information. Seeking answers, Luin questions King Bram about itself. However, the statue refrains from responding, gesturing to the surrounding students, indicating that they can all hear its words, but it will explain later. Upon hearing Luin's examiner express concern about scoring, he questions the statue. However, it states, "The evaluation ends here. This magic is not something I can judge." The examiner's jaw drops upon hearing this, and he turns to his uncle, mentioning that according to the school rules, they must be informed, as this contract has been ongoing for the past 500 years since the death of Archmage Froyen. Upon hearing this, King Bram becomes visibly angry, prompting the examiner to apologize. However, he changes his mind and agrees to reveal the score, asking Luin directly whether he prefers a 0 score or a 100 score, calling him Little Destroyer. Luin, delighted by this, opts for 100 points, and he receives them. After the exam, all the students gather in the hall, where discussions revolve solely around Luin's performance. They marvel at how King Bram awarded him a perfect score, which was a rarity, as King Bram rarely awarded even 10 points. Some praise Luin, while others seem jealous of his success. Professor Heidel also approaches Luin, commencing praise for his performance and informing him that news of his perfect score has already reached the dean's office. He mentions that when the dean heard about it, he expressed a desire to reward Luin, as such an event has never occurred before. They hand Luin a scroll and depart. Luin is astonished at this revelation, as despite being in the academy for the past 6 years, he had never heard of such a hidden place before. Upon hearing Luin's surprise, the professor explains that this is the only place where entry is prohibited. Luin arrives at the gate of a room, feeling confused about why he's there. He asks the professor if this is the entrance to the artifact room, and if only he can go inside. The professor confirms, urging him to enter alone while they wait outside. Opening the gate, Luin steps inside, feeling a bit anxious. Inside the artifact room, he sees several iron statues on both the left and right sides, with a shadow looming ahead. The room resembles a magic warehouse, reminiscent of Archmage Froyen Ignit style. Luin finds himself lost in his thoughts when he hears a voice behind him. He turns around and sees King Bram's figure amidst the shadows. King Bram tells him, "You don't yet know your true worth." At first, Luin is startled to see King Bram there and wonders why he's there. But then, he questions why King Bram is no longer just a stone statue. King Bram dispels his confusion, explaining that this is the only place where he's allowed to use his body, thanks to the ancient mana that fills this room. Luin is perplexed by King Bram's words and asks about his true worth, to which King Bram responds that Luin doesn't even know his true value. Rather, he's using the artifact just like Draka, the player. This revelation leaves Luin stunned. King Bram then inquires how Luin obtained this rare artifact and what his relationship with Draka is. However, Luin himself doesn't have answers to these questions, which he admits to King Bram. King Bram begins to explain how Draka aspired to become a god-like figure during a visit to the Skypeak tribe, King Bram's own tribe. Despite Draka's small stature at the time, his power was immense, surpassing even that of his fellow tribe members. As time passed, Draka's strength continued to grow, and despite facing numerous attacks from ogres, he remained undefeated. As a result, the ogres began to respect him, and he started living among them, eventually becoming a member of their tribe. Draka even appointed King Bram as the next tribal chief and taught him both language and magic over nearly a century. Luin, hearing King Bram's explanation, becomes fascinated, wondering how a human being could live for 100 years. King Bram clears up his confusion by revealing that he wasn't a human being but a black dragon from Dracagania. He further explains that the origin of magic was through dragons. King Bram explains to Luin that despite being so powerful, Draka couldn't use magic. Therefore, he adopted a new fighting style like Luin's, incorporating magic into his hands and feet. These abilities were exclusive to Draka, and due to their use, he became stronger than any other being in the world. However, he remained unsatisfied and sought to expand his power infinitely. But in the end, he destroyed everything and destroyed himself. Luin gets extremely excited as he couldn't have imagined the extent of Draka's strength to be capable of destroying the entire world and even himself. As they converse, a status window suddenly appears, revealing to Luin that he has achieved a breakthrough in tracing Draka's traces. He receives some rewards, including a title called Ogre's Friend, and skills such as Ogre's Fury Spirit and Incarnation of Power. Another status window reveals that due to the title Ogre's Friend, Luin will be safe from hostility from ogres, allowing him to communicate with them. Additionally, with the skill Ogre's Fury, he can borrow the power of an enraged ogre, temporarily boosting his own strength. This enhancement lasts for 300 to 430 seconds, with the effect gradually increasing over time under the influence of body arts. The cooldown period for this skill is 3 minutes. The powers and the new skill seem promising to Luin, and he's intrigued by the sudden appearance of the crystal-like ball in his hand. Upon seeing it, King Bram stands from his throne, and upon being questioned by Luin, he tells him that Draka always kept it with him. While explaining, he says, "This guy is an incarnation of power. Although he is called a spirit, he is different from normal spirits. He has a nasty temper, and would ask Draka for infinite power every day. However, if you satisfy his desire, he will also promise you infinite power." He also says that there is no need to worry too much, and it looks like he is going to wake up now. The crystal ball held in Luin's hand begins to crack like an egg and starts to glow, and from within emerges a bear. Upon hearing this, bear gets angry but starts shouting at him. Luin finds his behavior very strange because he appears to be a small cute bear cub, and the bear tells him, "How dare you compare me to a bear?" and explains that he is an incarnation who can take on any form he desires. He says, "Wait, let me show you my power," and his eyes begin to sparkle. He tries very hard but cannot do anything and ends up confused about where his powers have gone. Then he starts shouting at Luin, saying that maybe it happened because he incarnated while being hungry and demands food. Luin tells him that he doesn't have anything to eat right now, which makes the bear very angry, and he says, "Why is my master so weak this time?" and falls asleep on Luin's palm while shouting. Luin, however, becomes very confused by his strange behavior. King Bram remembers the old days upon seeing the behavior of the spirit named Kiki because he hasn't changed at all. Then King Bram asks Luin what he will do with these powers that have made him strong, warning him that these powers can lead him down both good and bad paths, and can even destroy him. Therefore, he asks again what Luin will do after becoming strong. Luin tells him that he only wants to become powerful so that he can protect his people from demons and uphold the honor of the Ardell family, as many people make fun of his family name. There is a confidence and a different spark on Luin's face that makes King Bram sometimes trust him. After a while, Luin heads to the training hall of the academy, where he tries to awaken Strang by tempting him with food. Strang immediately wakes up upon hearing about food and becomes excited. The food Strang eats grants Luin power obtained through quests. When Strang eats, a status window appears explaining that Strang is the only spirit in the physical world that responds to the most primitive essence of strength and grows stronger as his vessel grows stronger, sharing everything with his vessel. In the past, he had challenged and destroyed 7 thrones along with the Black Dragon Dragagonia. Strang's unique skill is Companion Strangs, through which he can share opposition up to 100%. Luin also praises Strang for his useful skills. Luin starts to think that by reaching 31 stars, his strength will reach 3D100, but it still seems very low to him because Draco was several times more powerful, and so were the strong ones. Therefore, he gets lost in thought, wondering if there is another way besides quests to increase his strength. Strang becomes very happy after eating and tells Luin that's why he is here. But he makes a deal with him saying, "If you want to know, then bring me a glass of water first." Luin gets angry upon hearing this because he is very serious, which Strang finds amusing, and he tells him, "There are many ways to gain more power, such as trying higher difficulty quests for better rewards. You can craft an item for yourself to increase your strength, or you can search for an artifact, or you can even boil the tendons of ogres to make elixirs." In the end, he tells Luin that he cannot do any of these things because he needs at least 1,000 strength for all of them, and his body won't be able to handle it. This annoys Luin. Strang keeps teasing Luin, but Luin realizes that he was feeling like he was getting stronger, but in reality, it's just the beginning. So, he sets himself a goal to gain 1,000 strength. For this, he starts working hard every day, putting all his effort into his training. When he reaches 930 strength on the same day, the 3rd trial of their academy, the real combat exam, begins. This trial is a real combat test where magicians usually attack from the backline, so there's a possibility that spells might hit allies in the chaos. This trial tests a magician's risk management skills and is considered the most important test by everyone. The test begins, and Foldren Knights are also present on the field to ensure the safety of all the students. This trial lasts for 10 days, during which students are provided with different monsters to fight according to their scores. By the end of the 10 days, only 13 high-scoring students remain. On the 10th day, all the students are very curious about what kind of monster will appear on the final day of the trial, and this is the topic of discussion among all the students. Suddenly, they hear loud screams, which startle them, making their mouths sweaty with fear. Upon hearing the sound, they turn to see the monster approaching, and their fear intensifies because it's an orc, shouting loudly and looking terrifying. Orcs live in groups all around the continent, and they are much bigger than humans, and their intelligence is comparable to. Due to their violent nature, there are frequent conflicts between humans and orcs. As a result, the sight of the orc frightens the children. Professor Heidel observes the children's fear, and understanding their anxiety reassures them. He explains to them that they are all magicians and advises them to remain rational and confident, offering guidance on performing their best in the exam. Meanwhile, the orc is already enraged and attacks the knights. The group of knights tries to stop him, while Mikkel stands behind them, using his magic powers to attack the orc with ice arrows. As the orc becomes even more enraged and leaps to attack Mikkel after dodging the knights are unable to stop him, and everyone shouts for Mikkel to run and save himself. But Mikkel, frozen with fear, can't move a muscle and trembles as he sees the monster approaching. To save him from the imminent attack, Professor Heidel uses his power to create a prison tree, halting the orc's advance towards Mikkel. Terrified by the incident, Mikkel remains shaken and unable to move. Professor Heidel, angered by his childish behavior, removes him from the exam. Professor Elric feels very disappointed by this turn of events, so he goes to the dean to discuss Luin's test. The professor suggests using an ogre monster for Luin's trial because he was the only student in history to score perfectly on the exam. However, his true intention is to humiliate Luin. The dean, persuaded by Professor Elric's sweet words, agrees to his suggestion. Although the dean feels a bit hesitant, he trusts that Professor Heidel and the knights will handle things properly. The dean is also curious about Luin's capabilities, which is why he ultimately agrees to Professor Elric's suggestion. After hearing this news before the exam, Heidel informs Luin, who becomes visibly anxious. However, Strang, who is also present, listens intently and manages to excite Luin. Meanwhile, at the exam site, the ogre is securely bound with thick iron chains. It is furious and thrashing around, roaring loudly and exerting all its strength to break free. Even the knights observing are incredulous that a student could be so powerful that an ogre was summoned for their test. An ogre looks similar to an orc, but is much stronger. Ogres can crack skulls or twist spines with a single swing. Due to this, the knight in charge of supervising the ogre is worried, and he expresses his concerns to Professor Heidel. However, Professor Heidel has full trust in Luin and is willing to put his life on the line because of it. During the test, when Luin arrives at the trial room, the knight is unable to believe his eyes. He tells Luin that he won't stand a chance against the ogre, and he worries that even though he and Professor Heidel will try to save Luin during the trial, Luin won't be able to do anything. As Luin advances towards the ogre to begin the trial, the knight tries to stop him, warning that if he proceeds, they won't be able to save him. Luin responds by explaining that his magic technique is different from everyone else's, but the knight doesn't fully trust him. But without worrying about his words, Luin advances confidently, without any fear evident on his face, which the knight can also sense. This makes him understand that Luin is indeed different. With this realization, the professor instructs Luin to prepare for the trial to begin, and as soon as it starts, the chains of the ogre are released, causing it to go berserk and charge wildly. However, our protagonist remains unfazed, casting his fireball spell and immediately charging towards the ogre to attack. Seeing this, the knight thinks Luin is insane and shouts, trying to stop him. The ogre and Luin both charge at each other as if their lives depend on it. The knight is astonished by Luin's close combat skills, wondering how he can manage such moves. Luin hits the ogre with his fireball, causing smoke to engulf the area, making it impossible for anyone to see anything. Concern grows among everyone, and the knight starts to wonder if Luin is even alive. But Professor Heidel remains steadfast in his trust. Despite the clash, neither of them suffers significant damage. The knight places a hand on Luin's shoulder, urging him to retreat and warning that the ogre could take his life. However, Luin, full of confidence, refuses to back down, stating that this is his trial and he must complete it. With determination, Luin moves forward again, casting another fireball and devising a plan to get even closer to the ogre and target its weak points. Both the ogre and Luin advance towards each other rapidly. Seeing Luin engaging in close combat with the ogre, the knight is astonished because Luin shows no hesitation in fighting. As everyone watches the fight between Luin and the ogre, all the children are amazed and excited, witnessing the incredible strength the ogre is displaying against Luin. Luin fully utilizes his strength, slamming the ogre to the ground and repeatedly punching it in the face. The ogre's condition deteriorates rapidly, and it eventually falls unconscious. After witnessing his performance, even Strang realizes that Luin is no ordinary boy. Impressed by the spectacle, all the children watching the fight become highly impressed with Luin. They start cheering loudly, increasing his morale and praising his valor. Professor Elric, however, is not pleased with Luin's performance and becomes quite agitated. On the other hand, the dean is very happy and smiles as he watches Luin from a distance. The knight, still unable to believe in Luin, surrounds the ogre from all sides, feeling that the ogre might still regain consciousness. Witnessing Luin's strength, the knight is greatly astonished and asks where he learned all this. Luin proudly mentions that he learned it all by himself, which surprises the knight. However, Luin turns to Professor Heidel, asking about the results of the trial. With a smile, Professor Heidel responds, saying, "To be honest, I didn't expect you to do this, but you didn't even give me a chance to stop you. You always surpass my expectations." Luin doesn't quite understand his cryptic words, so Professor Heidel clarifies by telling him that he has passed. This news fills Luin with immense joy. And with this joy, a status window appears in front of him, revealing that he has completed a quest and earned a new skill as a reward named Player's Eye, increasing his strength by +30. Initially, Luin doesn't understand much about the new skill, but then, through another status window, he learns that with the help of the Player's Eye skill, he can now perceive the true nature of everything, extract digitalized information, and also sense stealth and track invisibility. Strang gets very excited upon seeing the new skill and congratulates him on acquiring it. Luin asks him if he knows about it, to which Strang replies that it's something only a player can have. He explains that enemies hiding using stealth and invisibility magic will look different to his eyes, as he will perceive them with a faint outline. Upon hearing this from Strang, Luin understands that this skill could be useful for him in the future. Along with this, a new status window opens, providing him with a mini-map. Strang explains to him that now, through the mini-map, Luin can see within a radius of 500 meters. Another status window appears, informing him that now he can view the status window of the desired target, and the information available depends on the target's level. Strang already knows about all these things, and with a smile and confidence, he steps down from Luin's shoulder and approaches the ogre, asking him to look. Luin immediately notices the detailed information about the ogre, which impresses him greatly. To train this new skill, he looks towards Professor Heidel, but in his status window, only 6th class magician is displayed, and he cannot read anything else. This helps him understand how the status window works. Strang also explains to him that he cannot extract information about people of a higher level through the status window, and as he becomes stronger, new information about people will be added to it. After the real combat test, rumors spread throughout the entire academy about how Luin defeated the ogre. In the academy garden, Jason and Luin sit together chatting, where Jason asks Luin how he feels about the academy because all the kids are talking about him. Luin doesn't give any particular answer to his question. Just then, a girl comes from behind calling Luin's name, and some of her friends also join her. Together, they start praising Luin for his performance in the 3rd test, and even bring some gifts for him to enjoy. After exchanging gifts, the girls happily leave the scene. However, Luin isn't interested in the food they brought, so he asks Jason if he would eat it. This question infuriates Jason. Ignoring Jason's reaction, Luin continues to observe him, checking his information in the status window. It reveals that Jason has high potential. Luin has been using the status window to gather information about everyone for the past few days, and today he encountered another person with high potential, the first being Mikkel. Upon checking Jason's status window, Luin doesn't disclose any specific information, but advises him to train a bit more effectively for the next test to ensure he achieves great results. Jason, suddenly confused by his advice, starts questioning him. Luin, unable to reveal the truth, diplomatically mentions that Jason possesses good skills that he can further improve with hard work. Jason, upon hearing Luin's advice, confides in him that he's been feeling unsure about his behavior lately, and that Luin seems quite different from before. He mentions that there have been rumors circulating in the academy recently, suggesting that Luin will surpass Mikkel, and not only become the valedictorian, but also the academy's representative. Luin doesn't seem particularly interested in these rumors, and instead takes Jason along to have a meal. While walking, Jason informs him that there will be a grand festival this year. In the 5th month of every year, representatives from renowned academies gather for the Magic Festival to determine their superiority. Additionally, every 7 years, the Olympiad brings together all magicians to ascertain the greatest magician. When these two events coincide, it's termed the Grand Festival. The Grand Festival serves as a national competition for the brightest students from prestigious academies. The winner not only receives a substantial sum of money, but also various privileges. To ensure fair competition, there's a limit on the number of students who can participate. 1 student for individual competitions and 30 students for group competitions. This means a total of 31 top students from the academy can compete, and the one who participates in the individual competition becomes the academy's representative. As Jason reminisces about last year's poor performance by Mikkel, which led to their academy being dubbed the Last Place Academy, Luin is deeply lost in thought. He knows that ultimately, the selection for the Grand Festival is based on the first semester test scores and recommendations from the professors. Moreover, the upcoming 4th test, the one-on-one with Mikkel, holds significant importance in this context. And that's why Luin keeps thinking about surpassing himself, and he starts his training with all his heart and soul. And 4 days after the 3rd test, he diligently does 1,000 reps in his training, and he also earns a new title for his preparations. Seeing this, Strang feels delighted because he had been waiting for this day for a long time. He initiates the repeatable quest through the status window, where the difficulty of the quest doubles and the reward triples. Leaping onto Luin's shoulders, he starts spinning his hands and begins casting fire spells. Watching the flames, Luin becomes nervous. On the other hand, Professor Elric is still thinking about Luin because he doesn't want anyone other than the Garhill family members to sit at the top of the academy. On the other hand, Strang reaches rank 2 upon completing the quest, which results in Luin receiving a bonus of plus 200 strength in his reward, and Strang's size also slightly increases, making him appear even more imposing. Luin is amazed by his sudden increase in strength and asks about it. With a smile, Strang replies, "This is just the beginning. Wait and see, there's more fun ahead for you." Due to this, Luin opens the status window and starts a new program for the repeatable quest, Body Training 2, as he has matured beyond the basic level. This time, he will need to do 5K punches, 5K kicks, 5K spin kicks, run 15 kilometers, and undergo real battle training, with a potential of gaining 30 strength from the record. Luin doesn't notice anything special in the status window, but he doesn't understand about real combat, so he asks Strang about it. Strang explains to Luin that now he can transfer into anything, but there are still some limits, and he mentions that he can even transform into a human, but it becomes difficult when he reaches rank 5. Luin becomes even more curious upon hearing this, so Strang transforms into a scarecrow to show him. Although Luin isn't particularly impressed, Strang hits him lightly, but explains that he was with Draka in this form and had helped a lot during real training. Luin's last real training quest is always with Strang. Strang tells Luin that from now on, they will train together every day. He explains that Luin is currently only a 3rd-class magician, which is very weak, but once his strength regains, he will be able to transform into anything, like a demon or a dragon. Luin is very interested in Strang's words, so they both start real combat training. Strang transforms into a magician and tells Luin that even if his magic hits Luin, it won't inflict any damage, only knockback. Similarly, Luin won't be able to damage Strang. They begin training by exchanging powerful blows with each other. On the other hand, Mikkel is deeply worried and furious at Luin. He confides this to Professor Elric, who gets angry at his words. However, Mikkel is very cunning and starts to blackmail him. They have some secretive conversations about this. Elric eventually gives Mikkel a glass bottle containing awakening herb, which grows in the northern lands of Holucation. It's a rare and precious medicinal herb that some use to create special elixirs. Professor Elric tells Mikkel that if he drinks it, he will experience an awakening effect within his body, which will drastically reduce casting time. However, Mikkel knows about the harmful side effects, such as extreme pain and forgetting the differences between friends and enemies after drinking it. Due to this, he refuses to drink it. However, Elric mentions his family name and suggests that he might have to leave his family due to poor performance. Mikkel responds by saying that Heidel knows well about his powers. Professor Elric offers another reassurance to persuade him, providing assurance that he will handle the drug testing himself, ensuring that Mikkel's concerns about the special herb won't arise. Although Mikkel isn't entirely convinced by Elric's words, he still listens to him. Eventually, the final decision is made for the Van Comet test location, which is held at the Mana Barrier Hall. As usual, the hall is packed with excited spectators eager to watch the match. In the middle of the hall, Luin and Mikkel stand facing each other, waiting for the test to begin. Strang advises Luin to use his strength effectively in the fight, boosting Luin's confidence even further. The professor signals the start of the match, but Luin feels something strange about Mikkel's behavior, prompting him to use the player's eye to analyze. He realizes that Mikkel has used some kind of drug that has altered his powers, and he understands that Professor Elric must have helped him pass the drug test. The professor stands before them and explains that only the use of black magic is illegal in the match, while all other magic, especially those based on the fourth element, is allowed. The scoring in the match will consider the level of magic used to hit the opponent. They explain that there is no need to worry about mana, because in this place, the effectiveness of magic is reduced by 99%. However, to reassure himself, Luin asks the professor what would happen if someone were using an illegal potion. The professor responds that if someone is found to have altered their senses in any way, they will be disqualified from the exam. Upon hearing this, Mikkel becomes very angry, and Luin notices his behavior. The professor then proceeds to start the match, but now Luin's mind is consumed with the thought that nobody will believe him because he's the only one who can see this through the status window. Therefore, he will need to find solid evidence. The match begins, and both of them engage in attacking each other. Mikkel uses his magic to bind Luin's feet with vines, preventing him from moving. However, Luin breaks free in just a second, surprising everyone in the hall. Luin is delighted to see that despite the mana barrier reducing magic's effectiveness by 10%, his real strength remains unaffected by the barrier. Mikkel attacks Luin again with his new magic technique, making Luin realize that Mikkel's potion has reduced casting time and increased mana collection. Additionally, Luin understands that Mikkel has used Burning Flower, also known as the Herb of Awakening. To evade Mikkel's attacks, Luin hides behind a stone and starts contemplating how to destroy the magical herb. Mikkel, remembering his fear, tries desperately to break free. Luin knows that now only Mikkel's pin suppression remains, and when Mikkel comes out, Luin tells him that he used Burning Flower, which is why he's feeling so confident. Mikkel, upon hearing this, immediately becomes anxious and starts fabricating excuses, but his nervousness and the sweat on his face betray his lies. Luin doesn't want to give him any time to escape, so he immediately attacks using time refraction, swiftly closing in on Mikkel. He moves so quickly that Mikkel sees him coming and panics, quickly creating an ice field to shield himself. However, Luin approaches from the front and shatters the ice with a single strike. As everyone watching the match, including the professors and the dean, become excited by this new technique, Mikkel advances forward and uses a third-class magic called Fire Lizard. In response to this attack, Luin counters with his Earthquake technique. The spectators in the stadium are astonished by Luin's technique, and Mikkel becomes furious upon seeing this. Luin realizes that Mikkel's pain suppression is still active, so he approaches him and delivers a blow to his forehead with a finger, disrupting his magic. And with a gentle but forceful push, Luin sends Mikkel flying backward because Luin's seemingly light ride is incredibly powerful. Children scream as they see Mikkel flying away and crashing into a wall, causing it to break. However, he continues to laugh and taunt Luin, seemingly unfazed by the impact. Upon seeing his condition, Luin realizes that if he continues to strike with such force, Mikkel might be seriously injured. Therefore, he decides to use the binding tree to restrain Mikkel and loudly informs everyone that Mikkel has used a forbidden drug. Upon hearing this, the professor quickly rushes to Luin and warns him that if this isn't true, he will be disqualified. Luin remains steadfast in his statement, confident in his assertion. He suggests that someone may have assisted Mikkel in passing the drug test, pointing an accusatory finger at Elric. Elric rushes to Luin upon hearing his accusation, shouting at him for making such allegations. However, Luin remains undeterred by his words and confidently states that he has proof. Professor Elric agrees with him and suggests that they redo the drug test because he knows that nothing will be found this time. Luin tells him that there's no need for that because he knows that Elric used the special elixir to hide Mikkel's symptoms. Luin approaches a large tree and performs the same attack he used on Mikkel. The impact is so powerful that even a slight fingerprint leaves the tree shattered and burnt. Showing the condition of the tree, Luin asserts that even if Mikkel had undergone extensive training, his body would have been affected to the point where several ribs would have been broken. Yet he doesn't seem to feel any pain due to the special herb and continues to laugh uncontrollably. With his evidence presented, Luin demands an answer from Elric, who becomes visibly angry but is unable to say anything in response. Amidst all this chaos, the dean arrives from behind, visibly furious at Elric's actions, and scolds him before taking him to his office. Subsequently, the fourth test passes swiftly like a storm. Professor Elric is fired and Mikkel is expelled. The corruption of the Garahil family is exposed, and Luin is given a new nickname by his peers, Expulsion Maker. Luin is summoned to the dean's office, where upon opening the gate, he witnesses a sight that is entirely new to him. Inside, he sees a field with a throne at its center, the throne of Terran, where the king of magicians sits. Luin's gaze remains fixed on the throne, wondering why he is there. Approaching from behind, the dean pulls him out of his thoughts and asks, "What do you see, Luin?" Then explaining, this place was created independently by the Eye of Malarok. He further inquires if Luin knows about the Eye of Malarok. As they walk through the field, they continue discussing, with Luin sharing what he knows about Malarok. He explains, he was the leader of the demons that first invaded the Frelaya continent. They say that he had the power to force a target to have visions of what they desired the most. Then he adds, and after the demise of Malarok, his body parts were produced into artifacts. Hearing this, Luin's heart fills with understanding, as they explain that the Eye of Malarok shows a person the world they desire to see. The realization that what Luin saw earlier was his own imagination intrigues him greatly, and he once again gets lost in his thoughts. The dean looks at Luin intently and asks if he doesn't want to know what he sees here. Luin, intrigued by this question, smiles in response, and the dean explains that Luin sees a world where students act like students and magicians act like magicians. However, he adds that it's not as profound as Luin might think. Then, the dean leaves the room with Luin. When Luin meets his friends outside, they are very happy because Luin has now become a valedictorian. His classmates and Jason are jumping with joy in this happiness. The next day, the dean calls Luin to his office for tea and tells him that he wants to ask him something, so he was called there. Luin agrees with him. The dean, while asking him, says, "But how did you detect that Mikkel used the burning flower among other stimulants?" Luin initially hesitates to respond, but then explains that he suspected the use of the burning flower because Mikkel appeared both aggressive and anxious, which he found to be abnormal behavior compared to his usual demeanor, as observed through mana barriers analysis. However, the dean isn't satisfied with his answer and questions why Luin seemed unsure at the time. This question troubles Luin, but he can't reveal his true abilities and tries to deflect by making excuses and attempting to convince them with his answers. The dean listens to Luin's words and begins to trust him. He reflects on Luin's young age of only 16 and his remarkable abilities. Despite the challenging circumstances, he believes Luin will have a bright future. Breaking his silence, the dean apologizes to Luin for the incident and promises that the Garahel family won't cause him any further trouble. With a warm smile, he asks Luin if he would be willing to be their representative in this year's grand festival. Luin feels ecstatic and honored by the opportunity presented by the dean. However, he expresses gratitude while respectfully declining the offer. He acknowledges that despite the prestigious nature of the role, he lacks sufficient experience due to his struggles with Magic Evocation Disorder over the past 5 years. Therefore, he believes he is not yet suitable to be a representative in the Grand Festival. However, the dean remains unconvinced by his argument and explains to him that he has been a judge at the Eclipse Festival several times, and in his opinion, Luin is worthy of becoming a winning candidate. He assures Luin of his full confidence and advises him not to be discouraged. Hearing the praise, Luin feels a bit embarrassed. The dean then explains to him that in the festival, he will be like a secret weapon because people don't have much information about him, nor are they familiar with his methods and strategies, which will give him an advantage during combat. Upon hearing this, Luin becomes very happy, and a renewed sense of confidence surges within him. Seeing the emotions changing on Luin's face, the dean asks him if he has made up his mind to participate. Luin enthusiastically agrees and assures him of his confidence. Just then, a sound of the gate opening is heard from behind, and upon turning around, Luin sees a knight. His face loses color at the sight. The dean explains to Luin that the body arts class will be more beneficial to him than magic laughing, and that's why he called the knight as well. He is Golter Perante, the Knight Order leader of the Foldren territory, one of the only 5 6th rank knights that exist in Radiant Kingdom. Luin sits down with Golter and begins talking. He tells him, "First, there are a few things I must confirm. You say that I heard from Professor Heidel that you are a special magician who has no choice but to fight at close range. Is that true?" Luin agrees with his statement. Golter continues, praising him further, saying, "From what I saw last time, your movement is quite good, concise, and devoid of unnecessary movement." He tells him that his movements can work on an ogre, but he hasn't learned martial arts, which a knight can easily discern by watching his fighting style. No matter how strong he may be, if his opponent uses body art, they can easily detect his movements by observing his shoulder and hip movements. Luin understands from Golter's words that he has only been practicing repetitive motions so far, which won't be very effective in a fight. Golter suggests they continue talking for a while and then immediately instructs Luin to start training. He takes him to the training hall, where he explains that for a knight, the most important aspect is their legs because they provide strength and enable the prediction of enemy movements to wield a sword effectively. He emphasizes that the first thing Luin needs to learn is to walk properly, as only then can he properly learn body arts and eventually master proper martial arts techniques. Golter then explains the heavenly martial arts technique commonly taught in knight training centers, which consists of a total of 36 martial movements, excluding sword techniques. Luin has a question for Golter, asking what benefit he will gain from learning all this since he has to come to the academy daily for his work. Golter explains that it's an investment for him, as Luin can connect with it later on. He further elaborates, saying, "I meet someone who seems like he would become a great magician, and if I could be of help to this future magician, wouldn't it be a worthwhile investment?" Luin understands his point and respectfully bows before him, saying, "I will be in your care, guest Professor Golter." Luin begins his training with Golter according to his instructions, putting in hard work and dedication. Golter quickly notices Luin's dedication and strength, especially when Luin is deeply impressed by the ogre he saw after the fight, despite it being broken. Under Golter's supervision, Luin continues his rigorous training for 3 weeks, and through the status window, he realizes that his skill in body arts has increased. He has now reached level 10. Moreover, he has attained a new title, Whole Body a Weapon. And as a reward, the effects of the skill, the Magician of Madness will be enhanced. And as an effect of the Magician of Madness, now he can imbue every part of his body with magic. Luin's strength increases significantly to 2130 points due to his intense training, which he can feel in his movements. He also achieves a higher rank in strength. Both are very happy and excited about these developments. Luin, in his excitement, asks Golter, "The effects of mastering the heavenly martial arts are incredible though, aren't they?" Surprisingly, Strang can't believe Luin's rapid increase in strength, and he tells Luin that when he was with Draka for 25 years, he only gained 2,000 points of strength. He also says, "Isn't that just because of the gap in perception of time between a human and a dragon?" Just then, Jason comes running towards Luin, shouting for him. Luin, taken aback, starts to wonder what's happening. Jason arrives, slightly out of breath, and informs him that the list of participants for the Grand Festival at the Academy entrance has been posted, asking Luin if he hasn't seen it yet. They both immediately run to see the list with great enthusiasm. Luin is thrilled to find his name in first place, and many other children standing there, upon seeing Luin, become very happy and start congratulating him. For Luin, this is a significant achievement, as he has seen a lot of hardship over the past 5 years due to Magic Evocation Disorder, making him immensely happy. Jason is also delighted to see his name on the list, at 31st place for the team competition. After checking the list, Luin returns to the training hall to continue his training with full dedication. He works hard, and Professor Heidel praises him, expressing surprise at how quickly Luin mastered the heavenly martial arts. Professor Heidel tells him that if he stays focused on his training, they have full confidence in him. Everything goes smoothly. They prepare for the Grand Festival, where Luin and his companions become stronger and stronger. At the train station, Luin and his companions are discussing amongst themselves as they wait for the train. They are telling each other that this is their first time riding a train, which is very fast, and there are only 2 transit points in the Radiant Kingdom. However, in the Raymak Imperial Federation, there are 100 such transit points. Luin remains silent, listening to their conversation, and alongside them, a group of other kids is also standing, ready to go for the Grand Festival. They also start making fun of Luin's friends after hearing their conversation. Luin recognizes the boy among them who is saying all this. His name is Hanks, who participated in the Magic Festival last year with Mikkel. And Hanks, along with his companions, starts teasing Luin, saying that there's no need for them to trust him as he won't be able to do anything in this Grand Festival. Both groups start pulling each other's legs, but Luin, despite hearing their remarks, knows that there are many people who want to take advantage of their connection with the Garahil family. Therefore, he doesn't pay much attention to them and focuses entirely on performing well in the competition. However, Hanks doesn't stop and tries to provoke Luin by mentioning Mikkel's name to break his silence. Luin, upon hearing this, breaks his silence and tells them that dogs are still loyal to him even when the owner is about to be kicked out. Upon hearing this, Hanks becomes irritated, but Luin remains calm. He explains to Hanks that the Grand Festival is very different from the last Magic Festival, and if he gets a good result, he will receive better opportunities that he won't get from the Garahil family. Luin tries to make him understand various things, but Hanks keeps teasing him and insists that they will have to rely on the Garahil family, or else they will face difficulties later on. Luin gets tired of trying to explain and silently moves forward. In a short while, the train arrives, and they all board the train. Luin's friends are very excited to be on the train because they have never traveled on such a fast train before, and they are also happy to see the progress of the world. Luin and Jason sit quietly on the train. At that moment, a group from another college comes and starts teasing them, saying, "Oh, do we have here country bumpkins of the Academy?" Luin recognizes them by the pattern on their coats that they are from the Oyota National Magic Institute, the only training school in Oyota, a sand kingdom built on a desert renowned for its ancient history. They were particularly known for honing their swordsmanship and physical abilities to the extreme. However, he is a bit confused about why they are here. They inquire about Mikkel's whereabouts, wondering if he ran away, and one of them jokingly says, "I was going to ask him to take care of us this year too, as a servant, I mean," and they burst into laughter. Then, teasingly, they say, "You guys will probably remain in last place as usual." Luin remains completely calm despite hearing their remarks, which Strange remarks upon, teasingly asking how he can tolerate so much. Luin doesn't respond to him, just thinking that now isn't the right time to say anything. However, he realizes how his academy is treated outside, and he believes that the authority and responsibility of his team are all on him because he is their representative. Then, a boy from the Oyota Magic Institute approaches Hanks and starts yelling at him, asking about Mikkel. But things escalate, and Luin intervenes, signaling towards the medal and indicating that he is their representative. The boy introduces himself as Oyota's representative, Seta Malkiri. Luin then tells him his name and asserts, "And I think that's for a first greeting. If you're done picking a fight, get out of our compartment now." He says this with great confidence because he has been listening to their conversation for a while. Seta Malkiri doesn't quite understand Luin's assertiveness, so Luin confidently explains to him, "You are going to apologize for calling us academies before you leave, right? In a polite manner, I mean." Jason and his companions are astonished by Luin's sudden display of confidence. Upon hearing Luin's demand for an apology, Seta Malkiri becomes extremely infuriated and shouts back, "Did you just tell me to apologize?" Everyone in the train compartment looks at Seta Malkiri in astonishment. Seta Malkiri, still yelling, turns to Hanks and asks, "Didn't you tell your new recruit about me?" Hanks becomes even more nervous and starts trembling in fear. Seeing Seta Malkiri's behavior, Luin realizes that this is why students attending the Magic Festival tremble at the sight of Oyota. They must have been intimidated by Seta Malkiri's team's aggressive demeanor before the match. Luin, however, doesn't flinch upon seeing Seta Malkiri's reaction and challenges him further. As Seta Malkiri becomes even angrier, he immediately moves forward to strike him. Just then, their professor arrives from behind and shouts, managing to stop Seta Malkiri. Seeing the professor, Seta Malkiri becomes apprehensive and doesn't proceed further. The professor scolds him, asking if he wants to make enemies right from the start. Seta Malkiri apologizes to Professor Heidel for his behavior and reluctantly follows him to his cabin, still threatening Luin as they leave. Seta Malkiri and his professor sit in their cabin, and Seta Malkiri asks why the professor stopped him since he was just following the method the professor had taught him. His professor takes a deep breath and tells him, "Didn't you notice?" Professor Heidel was smiling, indicating his confidence that he wants a fight between you and Luin. Seta Malkiri calms down upon hearing his professor and asks him if it's confidence. The professor replies, "Certainly, there is something about Luin, and we don't even know his weaknesses yet. I am sure he is a different guy from Mikkel that you fought with last time." After Oyota left, the atmosphere inside the cabin oddly changed. On the other hand, Luin and his companions sit together, planning and discussing. They reassure each other that the first match is a group competition without the representative. However, Luin's companions are not confident that they will perform well without Luin by their side. One of them shouts, "Of course, we'll do great." Hearing his words, confidence builds among all the kids. Luin thinks to himself as he watches them. He realizes that not long ago, they were at odds with each other, but now they are united. This realization brings him great joy, and he smiles as he contemplates. However, one of them explains to Luin that when they were arguing with those guys, he should have handled them because they have spent their entire lives just fighting. But his words don't instill any confidence in Luin, and he remembers feeling angry at them for mocking their representative. So, while explaining to them, Luin says, "If I had stayed quiet, we would have truly become the academies. Do you want that? Are you going to keep being disrespected?" All the kids around lower their heads in embarrassment, unable to meet Luin's gaze. Even Hank sits in his seat with his head down, and his words can be heard from afar. If he's still feeling nervous, Luin tries to boost his confidence by shouting at him, "They've been disrespecting you for 5 years because you let them beat up on you." Then, addressing all the kids, he says, "This is not the time for fighting amongst ourselves." One of Hank's friends brings him over to Luin and suggests, "I'm thinking of placing Hanks as the gatekeeper in the arrow ball match. What do you think?" Hanks blushes upon hearing this. Luin is delighted to see them join him for the grand festival, but he still has some concerns that they might betray him in the end. The next stop is the Altine Duchy, which is one of the states belonging to the Rainak Imperial Federation and the only state recognized as a neutral state under the Empire. Here, even if they are enemies who have been at war for decades, emotions must be excluded if bloodshed occurs. If any crime occurs within Altine, the Rainak Empire, the ruler of the continent steps forward and judges the crimes. Due to this, large-scale international competitions such as the Magic Festival of the Magic Society and the Sword Grand Prix of the Swordsmanship Society are held in Altine. When Luin and his group get off the train, they are astonished to see the towering buildings. Jason tells Luin, "This is none other than the Rainak Empire." Correcting Jason, Luin says, "Idiot, it's not an empire. It's an imperial federation under the control of the empire." There are numerous people on the street, going about their daily activities. Jason feels overwhelmed by the sight of this place, feeling like he's in a different world. He nervously tells Luin, "Our Daemon Empire is supposed to be rich in itself, but the states here are." Luin feels disappointed upon hearing Jason's remarks, but he knows that this is Altine, just as he expected. The atmosphere feels relaxed, and the place is beautiful with its antique charm and grand buildings. Luin feels like he's come from a smaller place compared to this grandeur. As they prepare to depart for their accommodations, several horse-drawn carriages arrive to pick them up. Luin, Jason, and Professor Heidel are seated together in one carriage. Professor Heidel expresses his concern, saying, "I'm saying this out of concern, but I hope you don't go to another college's accommodation even by mistake, because getting into a fight with anyone won't lead to anything good." Luin hesitates upon hearing this and asks, "Why do you have to say this while looking at me?" Suddenly, Strang notices a familiar smell and tells Luin, which confuses him. As Strang leans towards the window, and he tells Draka's relic is in this place. The next day, Luin gets ready early in the morning and sets out with Strang to find the location. He uses a mini-map to navigate, and after a short while, they arrive at Altine's Touching Memories workshop. Luin came here because he thought the unique smell Strang mentioned might be found in this place. It appears quite ordinary to him as they enter through the gate. Expecting it to be some sort of black market where only wealthy individuals reside, Strang tells him, "Draka's relic is useless for non-strength-based wizards. It's just trash for an ordinary wizard." As Luin's player's eye scans the items in the shop, his gaze falls upon a ring that gleams. Using the player's eye, he discerns it as the Ring of Invulnerability, the first artifact created by Draka, but also his first failure. The status window reveals that the ring grants a small chance to resist any physical force that touches the wearer's body, increasing the chance to negate physical damage. Upon reading the status window, Strang starts laughing, and Luin's expression becomes solemn. Strang then explains, "It even restricts touches from your friends and hugs from your lover. It might prove useless when you really need it and could activate on something trivial, making it a failure. But you need this." Luin feels disheartened upon hearing this, but he tells Strang, "But you wanted this, didn't you?" As Luin tries on the ring, he feels a slight relief as his health increases by 10 plus 200, which gives him some comfort. The ring fits him perfectly, and he feels like it might have been made just for him. He then approaches the shopkeeper and asks about the price of the ring, but the shopkeeper smiles and tells him to keep it for free. He explains that the ring had been lying in the boss's shop for a long time, and he doesn't know how to take care of it. Luin, feeling happy upon hearing this, says, "All right then, I'll want to buy some more things." He starts searching through the shop with the help of his player's eye, analyzing the details of every item. After a while of searching, his gaze falls upon a book with a high reality rating. It's a book about quantum mechanics of magic and swords. As soon as he sees it, he understands that he wants that book and immediately reaches out to grab it. However, just as he's about to take it, another girl comes running from behind and tries to reach for the book. Luin quickly places his hand on the book first, and the girl places her hand on top of Luin's hand. Luin's gaze immediately falls on the girl, and he learns from her status that her name is Irene Prius. She is a 5th-class magician, and her potential is very high. Upon reading her name, Luin understands that she is from the Seiki Women's University, and she comes from a territory where the king is known as the King of Wizard and the Wizard of Boundary. She is one of the 11 next-generation magicians that he picked. Luin has heard rumors about her before, saying that she is a genius and that people regard her as powerful as a 5th-class magician. These rumors turn out to be true. Irene Prius looks at Luin and asks him for the book, but Luin tells her that he saw and touched the book first, so it belongs to him. Irene notices Luin's emblem on his uniform and says, "Judging by your symbol on your uniform, you must be from Ignit Academy." Both of them have their hands on the book, and neither is willing to let go. Irene, upon hearing Luin's words, introduces herself and mentions that she was only here to buy the book. She asks Luin if she can take the book if he doesn't mind. Luin, upon hearing her, is lost in thought. He considers that she may have overheard their previous conversation as they had met during the Grand Festival, but he's not entirely sure of her intentions. He then asks Irene, "Can you tell me why you want this book? Because normally, people don't search for this book." Irene hesitates to respond and awkwardly says that she needs the book for a personal assignment but can't provide any details. She avoids further questioning and her cheeks turn red as she speaks. However, Luin catches her lie and realizes that Irene isn't obtaining the book for an assignment, but perhaps for something related to the king or another matter. Unable to argue further, Luin breaks his silence and tells her, "You can take the book, Irene." Irene thanks him, and while she does, Luin moves on to look for other items to purchase. When Luin returns to his accommodation and tells Jason about Irene Prius, his friends become excited upon hearing her name. They find her endearing and start asking Luin numerous questions about her, expressing their curiosity. Hanks, being with them, teases Jason by mentioning how he sat next to Irene during last year's exam and even talked to her. Upon hearing this, Jason starts feeling even more jealous. Hanks continues, praising Irene Prius, saying she's very strong but always ends up being in the top 2 ranks, which stresses her out because she aims to secure the top rank. Jason starts feeling bad upon hearing her criticism. Hanks explains about Doom Prime, stating that he is the top student of the Rainak Magic Soldier Training School and is highly respected among wizards of his age on the continent. Additionally, Doom Prime is the owner of the Sword of Radiance. Upon hearing this, Luin understands why Irene wanted the book to potentially defeat Doom Prime. Hanks elaborates further, stating that despite the challenges of being a magic swordsman, Doom Prime stands out. The Sword of Radiance, an S-class artifact, sets him apart. Hanks believes Doom Prime's swordsmanship level is comparable to that of an ordinary knight. However, Jason remains disinterested in Doom Prime's possessions or skills. Hanks continues, highlighting Doom Prime's privileged background, wealth, and attractiveness, which contribute to his high popularity among girls. Luin feels overwhelmed upon hearing Hank's description of Doom Prime and Irene's capabilities. He realizes he's facing tough competition. Irene, who has mastered 5th-class magic at the age of 16, and Doom Prime, who consistently defeats Irene every year. This realization fills him with worry about his own abilities in the upcoming fight. He recalls the dean's words about not necessarily becoming the winning candidate, which adds to his anxiety. Despite knowing that he won't receive much attention, Luin can't shake off the pressure building within him. As the door opens, a boy rushes in, excitedly announcing the details of the opening ceremony for the Grand Festival displayed on the notice board. Luin feels a sense of relief upon hearing the news, and he immediately heads outside to check the list. As he approaches the area where the list is posted, he sees a crowd of students from different academies eagerly gathered around. With anticipation, Luin scans the list to see his opponents, and he discovers that his first opponent is from the Oyota Academy. Seta Malkiri's gleefulness at the prospect of facing Luin's team's opponent from Oyota Academy doesn't sit well with Luin and his teammates. Luin notices the fear in their faces as they discuss Oyota Academy's reputation for playing dirty. Despite Seta Malkiri's taunts, Luin and his teammates remain silent, knowing the challenge ahead. They exchange worried looks and discuss amongst themselves the reputation of their opponents. Fear is evident on their faces, and Luin realizes the gravity of the situation. However, children from several other academies start speaking ill of Luin's team and mocking them. Despite hearing their remarks, Luin remains confident, but he doesn't say anything back. He sees this as an opportunity and resolves in his mind that he will definitely show them their worth, proving that they are not old slaves anymore. Luin breaks his silence and strides forward, addressing everyone. As you talk, we are from the academy, and I am their representative. With a newfound confidence, he continues, I will stop talking now, but I have one request. Don't ever call us the academy again. It's unpleasant. As he says this, a different kind of smile forms on his face, and there's a gleam in his eyes. Upon hearing this, Seta Malkiri gets angry, but Luin interrupts him with a confident smile, saying, I've dwelled in last place for so long that I'm tired of it. So now I want to try being first place. But Seta Malkiri and his companions continue to taunt Luin, repeatedly calling him by that name. Luin remains unfazed by their words and confidently asserts, I am the trump card who doesn't turn back in the battlefield. After a while, everyone goes back to their respective accommodations. Seta Malkiri is still upset about Luin's words and asks his companions about him. They inform him that they gathered some information about Luin and found out that he was a failure for the past several years. And continuing, they say, I'm not exactly sure, but at the beginning of the semester, he did a complete 180 and became a monster who got amazing grades. Upon hearing this, Seta Malkiri becomes somewhat confused. His companion continues, suggesting that perhaps his newfound confidence stemmed from this change. Seta Malkiri recalls his professor saying something similar, but he doesn't fully buy into the idea. Instead, his companions express determination to teach him a lesson using their school's traditional methods. On the other hand, in the Ignit accommodation, Luin and his companions are planning for the upcoming Mana grenade throwing event. It's a team competition where all team members, except the student representative, participate. The challenge involves throwing mana grenades at mithril golems, and the team that destroys them faster wins. Hanks, however, is still worried. If Luin is not present in the match, he wonders how they will fare. Luin reassures him, saying, You don't need to worry. You'll do great in the group. Hearing about the group strategy, Hanks becomes a bit confused, and Jason also gets worried about the match. Luin explains the group strategy to them. One group will tap mana granite, the second group will transport it, the third group will attack the golem, and the fourth group will hinder the opponent's team by healing their golem. However, his companions are still concerned about facing Oyota's team. They mention that their team will have 30 people attacking the golem at once, and if they attack with fear, how will they win? They feel that there is no clear solution to this problem. Luin explains to Hanks while emphasizing his earlier statement made in front of everyone else, asserting that they won't settle for last place, but aim for first. He assures them that he will do whatever he can to help, even in games where he cannot participate directly. When Oyota throws one, they'll throw 2-3 in return. While traditional methods might be effective for teams with outstanding individual skills, Luin believes that such methods take more time for their team. Hanks and Jason still show concern on their faces, but both of them come forward, trusting Luin's words and agreeing with him. Upon hearing their reassurance, the entire group starts to trust Luin, and a new confidence is instilled among them. Seeing this, Luin's face lights up with a different kind of glow. Luin divides everyone into different groups based on their abilities, using his player's eye abilities because through his abilities, he can identify the strengths and weaknesses of his teammates. As soon as all the perfect groups are formed, those who were not trusting Luin before now start to see a glimmer of hope, and a wave of new confidence can be seen on everyone's faces. Everyone is very happy with their respective groups. Just then, the door opens from behind, and one of their teammates comes in, collapsing to the ground on his knees. His face and hands are covered in blood, and his condition looks severe. As soon as he arrives, he calls out to Luin, who immediately rushes to him, asking what happened to him. And he is in great pain as he slowly tells Luin that Seta Malkiri and his companions are responsible for his condition. Unable to bear the sight of his teammate's condition, Luin immediately heads towards Seta Malkiri's accommodation upon hearing his voice and calls out to him. As Luin approaches, he sees Seta Malkiri standing there laughing. They stand face to face, and Seta Malkiri urgently asks Luin, "What are you relying on to be this cocky?" Luin, in a calm tone, places his hand on Seta Malkiri's shoulder and says, "What am I relying on?" He then swiftly helps him onto his feet and guides him to sit on the ground. Seta Malkiri finds himself unable to match Luin's strength, feeling both fear and anger welling up inside him. In a fit of rage, he attempts to strike Luin with his fist, but Luin effortlessly deflects the attack, grabbing his hand and twisting it away, causing Seta Malkiri to cry out in pain. Luin, maintaining his composure, issues a warning to Seta Malkiri, emphasizing that any harm to his teammates will have consequences. With Seta Malkiri writhing in pain on the ground, his teammates arrive, confused by the scene unfolding before them, and they inquire about his condition, unsure of what transpired. Luin's face lights up with a different kind of gleam, exuding confidence as he challenges Seta Malkiri. "Do you want to make a bet with me? This bet will be on Takban." After this, the scene shifts to Luin returning to his dormitory, where he shares the incident with his teammates. They respond with joy and reassure him, noting that it's the same technique Mikkel used. They predict that Seta Malkiri will be in tears after losing the Takban. Luin continues, explaining that if he wins, Seta Malkiri will have to apologize to everyone, including all their fellow students. This news sparks a wave of happiness among his teammates, filling Luin with satisfaction. One of their teammates rushes in, shouting to open the gate, announcing that they need to head to the All-Teen Stadium. He urges everyone to get ready. In a short while, they all arrive at the stadium for the opening ceremony of the Grand Festival. The Grand Festival is an event celebrated by magicians and the entire continent, historically known for hosting magicians who become important figures shaping the continent's history. In the stadium, students from different academies are present, each with their flags and representatives standing between the stadium sections. Meanwhile, those seated in the stadium cheer loudly to support Ignit Academy, a sight that fills Luin with great joy. Luin is filled with excitement as he realizes he's standing in a place where many legends have been made, which brings him great joy. After a short while, the opening ceremony comes to an end, and all students are instructed to take their seats. Students from all academies begin to depart for their destinations, and as Luin walks, he encounters Seta Malkiri, who threatens him, saying he won't let his guard down next time, and disappears. However, Luin pays no attention to his words because his focus is on Doom Prime, the winner of the Magic Festival, who stands at the pinnacle of the Raynak Magic Soldier Training School. Luin is preoccupied with the thought that if he keeps winning competitions, he'll eventually have to face Doom Prime. As he's contemplating this, Irene Prius approaches from behind and accuses him of being someone who causes trouble wherever he goes. Confused by her sudden appearance, Luin tries to understand why she's there. Irene reminds him of the incident at the Oyota accommodation. Shocked, Luin is speechless, unable to comprehend how she knows about those events. Irene continues, saying that All-Teen is a small place and she's sure everyone knows about the incident by now. Luin hesitates upon hearing her words and stammers, trying to explain that he wasn't trying to cause trouble, but just wanted to talk. Upon hearing Luin's response, Irene pauses and turns back to him, advising him that since he gave her the book, she's trying to return the favor by giving him some advice. It's best not to draw too much attention to oneself. Luin quickly responds, saying it's like she's hiding her true skills. Irene is taken aback by his comment, unable to respond, but Luin shows no interest in hearing her reply and tells her he has to go as he's one of the contestants for the first event of the festival. Luin, however, is unable to say anything, and she watches him quietly as he leaves. In just a few minutes, the Mana grenade throwing event is about to start, pitting Ignit Academy against Oyota. All the students from Ignit Academy are excited and happy for the match, feeling strong and confident. Jason boosts the confidence of his teammates, telling them they need to show everyone what they're capable of. With newfound confidence, they all head to the field. The first event, the Mana grenade throwing, finally begins. However, confusion erupts among the spectators as they observe Ignit Academy's new group technique, which resembles the Knights group. Criticism starts pouring from the crowd, claiming that this is the same school that boasted about reaching first place, yet now they seem destined for last. Luin stands among them, listening to the taunts. The match commences shortly after, and Ignit's golem loses a hand within moments. Jason, leading from the front, tries to boost his team's morale. From the sidelines, Luin cheers, urging them to quickly defeat the golem. Soon, the golem's right hand is also destroyed, causing chaos on the field. Seta Malkiri becomes furious, yelling at his teammates about how they could lose to the Academy team. His teammates yell, explaining that they can't do much because Ignit Academy's students keep moving their golem continuously, making it difficult for them to inflict more damage. Seta Malkiri's anger grows as a result. Meanwhile, Irene Prius observes the match and finds Ignit Academy's new strategy impressive. However, she realizes that such a strategy requires a deep understanding of each individual's strengths. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. She recalls Luin's words about finding the book instantly, which she had been searching for a long time. Jason and his teammates diligently follow the plan on the field. Irene Prius finds Luin's insights intriguing, and she wonders why she hasn't seen him at any magic festival before. Jason's confidence soars as he observes the state of the golem. With great confidence, he lifts his mana grenade and, while hurling it, shouts, "It's over, you assholes." The mana grenade collides with the golem, causing a powerful explosion that shatters it into pieces. The audience in the stadium rises to their feet, cheering and applauding their performance, while Jason's teammates are filled with joy and begin congratulating each other. Seta Malkiri is stunned by this turn of events, rendered speechless and seething with anger at Ignit Academy's victory. Jason and his teammates revel in their success, exchanging congratulations with each other and receiving praise from everyone, including Luin, who joins them in celebrating their victory. The other academies, who were initially mocking Ignit Academy for their past failures, now begin to ridicule Oyota Academy after their defeat, coming up with new names for them and making jokes at their expense. Shortly after, the Capture the Flag game is about to begin between the team representatives. Luin's teammates boost his morale, cheering loudly with a newfound wave of excitement on their faces, unlike before. In the first match, Luin and Seta Malkiri stand facing each other in the arena, while the spectators in the stadium eagerly await the start of their match, cheering loudly. Seta Malkiri stands before Luin, but there's a hint of concern on his face. With a smile, Strang stands firm and responds, "You seem nervous to me." To which Luin replies confidently, "We are ranked 200 out of 30 schools, right? It's perfect." Strang, upon hearing this, asks, "What's perfect about it?" Luin responds, explaining, "People are starting to pay attention to us again with our recent victory, but it's still not enough to break away from the label that has been branded on us for years." Luin expresses with great confidence to Strang that he will achieve an overwhelming victory against Oyota, which will change the perception among the people, something that has been associated with their academy for years. Strang always appreciates seeing his confidence, and Luin tells him in the end, "We must show him," referring to the magician they are discussing. In a distant dark room, heads of different academies are seated, observing a large sparkling crystal ball that illuminates the room. They are watching Luin and Seta Malkiri's match through this crystal ball. In that room, Flame King Terran is also present alongside the Dean of Ignit's Academy. Terran tells the Dean about Luin, stating that he was a candidate among the 11th human children. The Dean asks Terran if he still remembers him. Terran responds, explaining his habit of remembering talented individuals, and elaborates that Luin was exceptionally talented, having learned mana instinctively at a young age. However, he expresses disappointment upon learning about Luin's Magic Evocation Disorder. Upon hearing this, the Dean asks Terran if he is disappointed. "Weren't you the one who treated him like a useless child?" So, upon hearing this, Terran says, "But now, to think you chose a magician who couldn't even evoke mana as the student representative. I don't think you did that because you had something interesting in store like before. Does that mean he's overcome the curse in a few years?" On the other hand, on the field, Luin and Seta Malkiri are waiting for the match to begin. Luin is full of confidence as he asks Strang what type of magic he will use because he needs to defeat Seta Malkiri, his close friend. He further questions if Strang is not planning to summon a guardian. Luin replies, "Guardians aren't smart, so I won't." Strang is confused by his answer and asks what his plan is for the fight. With a glint of confidence in his eyes, Luin prepares himself for the match by stretching, and he responds to Strang, "I will fight him head-on." The order to start the match is given by the referee, and as soon as Luin hears this, he swiftly moves towards Seta Malkiri to attack him. Seeing Luin approaching, Seta Malkiri is momentarily startled and shouts, "I will pay you back for what happened at the lodging." He then summons a Battle Guardian, a massive knight that showcases Seta Malkiri's magical powers as it emits a bright blue light. Unfazed by the appearance of the Guardian, Luin swiftly uses time refraction, and with the speed of light, quickly maneuvers behind Seta Malkiri. Sensing his presence, Seta Malkiri turns and immediately attempts to punch him. But Luin effortlessly blocks Seta Malkiri's punch with a smile exuding confidence as he says, "I knew it." Although Luin has a tight grip on Seta Malkiri's hand, Seta Malkiri continues to struggle to break free, asking, "Aren't you going to let go of me?" Smiling and gesturing behind him, Luin replies, "I don't think you should be saying something like that now." As Seta Malkiri turns around, fear fills his face, sweat beads on his forehead, and his eyes widen in terror as his own guardian moves to attack him. Seta Malkiri tries hard to free his hand, but to no avail. Luin, seeing his terrified face, is pleased and encourages him to keep trying. Despite Seta Malkiri's persistent efforts, he can't break free, and as his guardian closes in, he realizes that when he lost to Luin last time, it wasn't because Luin's guard was down, but because Luin possessed formidable strength. In a desperate attempt to save himself from the Guardian's attack, just moments before it strikes, he concedes defeat. Hearing this, Luin swiftly attacks the Guardian with his flame attack, preventing any harm from coming to Seta Malkiri. Seta Malkiri is extremely astonished by Luin's immense power, finding it hard to believe that Luin has dealt such heavy damage to his Guardian of Steel, leaving multiple cracks in its armor by continuously punching it with his bare hands. Luin's display of power leaves Seta Malkiri utterly speechless and in awe. Luin then approaches him, and reaching where Seta Malkiri is sitting on the ground. There, Seta Malkiri, feeling vulnerable, asks Luin if he saved him. Luin, in response, confirms that he saved him, but with a smirk, he adds that he just wanted to finish him off himself. Then, reminding him of their bet, Luin asks if Seta Malkiri has forgotten about it. Seta Malkiri is already quite frightened, sitting on the ground, his face showing signs of fear and sweat dripping down. Luin has no intention of showing mercy and, using his strength, flicks him on the forehead. Upon the flick, Seta Malkiri is sent flying through the air, his condition worsening as he sustains an injury to his forehead. As he flies through the sky, he gazes at the deep blue sky, marveling at its vastness. Initially, the spectators are stunned by the sight, but soon they erupt into cheers and applause, expressing their joy. Luin's classmates are particularly delighted by his performance, cheering loudly to support him in his victory. The people sitting in the stadium can't believe what kind of fight it was because Luin won in a completely one-sided manner, dominating the entire match. And after this match, everyone's attention shifts away from the others and focuses on Luin. But after witnessing Luin's performance, Terran King seems to be in a state of shock. Being a magician of demigod state, he can't comprehend how a mere star-level magician, a border magician, could deliver such an outstanding performance. He's filled with questions upon seeing Luin, as he has never heard of Luin's type of magic before. Alongside, there's a separate feeling of jealousy towards Luin, and now he just wants to know who this boy really is. What will gonna happen next to find out? Just do like, share, and comment if you want the next part as soon as possible. And also help us by giving supers, because your one support motivates us a lot to make such type of content. Thanks for watching, sayonara.